Well, so I think I'm going to tell a story. It's an old story, like some of my stories you've heard, some of you have heard it before. But I realize that actually in the tradition of storytelling, in the old tradition of storytelling, it's actually important to hear the same story again and again and again so that you can find yourself differently in it each time. So you can see how you arrive inside the story differently each time. And I think if I had to name this story, I would name it something like, "Let God be your ocean. Let God be your breath. Let God be this moment." And you can think about that. Hopefully, if nothing else, take that home. Let God be your ocean. Let God be your breath. Let God be this moment. So the story that I'm going to tell is actually my story, or part of my story. I know. Check in your watch. There is going to be lunch, don't worry. Well, it might be dinner, but anyway. So I have to say, I'm someone who considers myself very, very blessed. And I believe I have always been. I don't think any home is perfect, but my childhood was pretty sweet. My parents weren't perfect, but they were pretty extraordinary. And there was a fair amount of, I'd say, support for me to be the weird kid that I was. To, as I was joking with someone this weekend, to, be the kid that ditches the high school party at 8 p.m. to go home and read Nietzsche for 2 hours. I skipped one of my high school graduation parties where I was finally going to get a chance to talk to and maybe even spend some time with this girl that I really liked. But instead, this native elder invited me to go to McDonald's with him, and I did that instead. And I think to have the freedom to be who you are is a huge luxury. It's a huge luxury. But there's more than that. I got to go on and do university education, way too much of that. And I was fortunate, I always managed to find good work, and I managed to get scholarships. I was able to travel and do lots of pretty great things. And so I just kind of assumed that was the way it was always going to be, right? Whenever you have a good moment, just like when you have a bad moment, it feels like it's going to last forever. And the truth is neither of them do, depending. And so we get to the part of the story, again, some of you have heard this, where I was writing books, and the career was growing. And you remember Larry King? Come on. I was on Larry King. That was a highlight, although Wolf Blitzer was on that day. I was pretty bummed out about that. And I told the booking agent, I was like, I'm going to go all the way to LA and Wolf Blitzer is on the show? And I said, I sent Larry King a get well card when I was 13. When he had his first heart attack, that's how in love with Larry King I was. Anyway, sent me a copy of his book. The point is, things were going well, and then I had this, what seemed like this perfect opportunity to travel to Mexico and start this incredible, inspired living wellness center and resort community. I was married at the time. I'd been married before. And, it wasn't going well. We had our struggles, and we were starting to wonder if that was really going to work out. But Mexico seemed like a good opportunity for us. So let's just fast forward through the story. It's now a year after we moved there. And the business was open. We had an extraordinary grand opening event. But it was starting to become apparent that I wasn't going to be compensated quite the way I thought. Contract just sort of went missing. The final was debated. My wife and I at that point were now separated and planning on divorce. And having come from a fairly high place, this started to feel like a pretty low place. And then it got worse. Because let's face it, divorce is not pretty. And even if you both want it, it's still not pretty. There come those moments of confusion and threat. And for those of you who know how close I am to my son, to experience the possible threat that he might be moved to another planet or universe, usually comes up at some point in this drama, right? I'm taking him to Jupiter and you're not going to be allowed to visit. Fortunately, Jupiter's not been colonized yet, but that was on the table. And suddenly, my income itself was vanishing. Like vanishing. Like I can eat, I can live in a room that's the size of this carpet, and this isn't the way I thought it was going to go. So then there was a choice. I mean, I can give you more gory details, but do you get the idea? Okay. This was not fun. And it started to feel like the universe was playing this horrible trick on me. Because I thought I'd been a pretty good boy. I thought I was doing pretty good work. And I thought I was doing everything right. So in theory, I should have been rich and in a joyful, growing relationship. And it was sort of like the opposite. Can you picture that? So then came the question. The questions that the mind and the emotions serve up. Why me? Why this? How dare they? This shouldn't have been. Why I oughta. But there was another voice too, right? Which is, wait, don't miss this. Don't miss this. This is just when it's getting good. Everything you were so proud of, everything you wanted to happen was a curse. And we are going to help you. We are going to help you by taking it all away. So that there is no mistake that love is always who you are. That spirit is the only truth. And that anything that you think will make you happy is a horrible lie. Something designed to distract you from being invincible, from being immortal, from knowing the absolute truth that every human being shares. That nothing in this world, no heartbreak, no bankruptcy, no election, no physical attack, no terrorism. There is something that none of these things can touch. And that is the truth of who you are. Where we come from, the essence of who we are and what we are moving towards will always be more than this body, than this passing thought, than this fleeting feeling. And if you can keep your heart open and return to the center of who you are in each day, in each moment, in each struggle, then you will find something extraordinary waiting for you. You will find hope. You will find joy. You will find laughter. You will find the power to love. you will find the power to love in a way that you've never even imagined, because it's not your love. You will break through all the doors of your being where you have been busy setting up rooms and organizing furniture and painting walls, to find that something lives in the very heart of your home, in the very breath of your breath, that is waiting to do it all for you, that has more answers than you'll ever know, that has more love than you'll ever be able to conjure. And it's right there. It's actually right there, deep inside. And yet it's so easy to miss it. Just the way sometimes we miss the beauty of the world around us. And we drive through Denver and forget to look to the mountains. Or we prepare to go to work and we forget to tell someone we love them. Or we wake up in the morning and we check our phone before we pray or before we meditate. It's easy to forget where we come from and the truth of who we are. But this is also our work. This is the journey. This is the path. And this is the gift of difficult times. This is the gift of challenges and changes and surprises. It's the reminder that you begin within and then move out. And then, sure, there can be disappointment. And sure, there can be heartache. And sure, there can be loss and struggle and frustration. But you know, when you start at the center, you know that these things will come and go. You know these things will come and go, and you give thanks for them because they remind you, like someone waking you up violently, that you are not what you think. And that the story is something very different. This is not the book. This is not even the chapter. This is one little anecdote in a vast, unthinkable expression of consciousness and creativity beyond the imagination. And so the reminder today is to return to the center. Find your center. Find that place and that moment that unites you with that which lives inside you that is not you. Does that make sense? To unite with that which lives inside you that is not you. The Buddhists call it the identityless self. And so we go back to the story, my story, and I remember this day, and I've talked about this day before, wading into the ocean. Now, I know that's a nicer place to go through life trauma. It's a good gig if you can get it. And standing waist deep and looking around and saying, I have a choice. I can invest my energy in solving this. I can invest my energy in asking why. I can invest my energy in anger, in blame, in doubt, in shame, in self-blame, in self-doubt. Or I can just stop. I can look around at this endless expanse of water and say, this ocean is God. And I will dive in. My breath is God. And I will affirm that every moment of my life, and this moment itself is God, whether I breathe or not. Only God is real. That is what we find at the center of it all. Only God is real. And if we start there, well, then we can move out. And maybe we'll be warriors. And maybe we'll be problem solvers. And maybe we'll be teachers or farmers. who knows what. But we start first within. We start first within. And with that lightness, and with that perspective, and with that access to love, we then turn to the world, look for the lessons, and make a difference where we can. And it's that simple. And it's that hard.